Here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
I don't know, guys. This whole thing sounds pre-recorded.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another edition of the Weather Report. This is episode 50 of our Weather Report, and we thank you for being here today. Yeah, episode 50, a milestone, man. Who'd have thought we would have got here 50 freaking times, and we still have viewers, man. It's incredible. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Like, share, and subscribe to this podcast if you find it very interesting, and I'm sure that you'll find today's show really interesting because we brought back Ryan Crim, family doc and life coach. He was here on episode 37, and we talked to him about all kinds of things that he does with his life coaching and his trips to Haiti, and we just want to welcome him back. Welcome back, Ryan Crim. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. And yeah, we're all cruising around here and all happy that we're all back and ready to do the podcast. Ken was gone last week. He was in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Barrett Jackson Auto Show. They call it the Auto Show or the Auto Auction?
It's an auction. Yep, it's the auto auction. Largest car auction in the world.
Yep. And then Jason and I were both kind of a little bit under the weather. Jason was a little bit under the weather more than I was. I still got I got the 1,000-day cough, and Jason's got the 100-day cough. And then Christian, as you can see, Christian there, he's lost a little weight. And so we're happy that Christian is here with us today. And we're going to get right on to it, man. So the chat room's open. So if you guys want to come in on the chat, and Duchess has already come in on the chat, and she told us to good evening, gentlemen. So good evening, Duchess. Good to have you there, and we're glad to have you around. And yeah, welcome back, Ryan Crim. So hey, I've got lots of questions for you tonight because there's a lot of scary stuff out there right now. And the one thing that's on the freaking front page of every website you go to now, because they're killing chickens and they don't want us to drink freaking raw milk and all that stuff. Let's talk about the bird flu. What do we know about the bird flu?
So the bird flu by itself, it's H5N1. So it really has not had that many detections so far this year. In my lifetime, probably the worst outbreak was sort of a novel virus back in, I think it was 2009, and they called it the swine flu. And so bird flu is... I'm pulling up all my notes here because I went through all this stuff. So bird flu is H5N1, and then when it changed into the swine flu back in, I believe it was 2009,
right? It
was H1N1, and so that was a novel virus, and that year was actually a very, very, very bad flu year. I remember it pretty specifically because I had a friend who ended up in the ICU with it. But so far, while they are picking up some detections in animals, it has mostly in poultry, some in wild birds, some in dairy herds.
So how is that affecting? So there's been some deaths. And I'm wondering, because I haven't really did the research on who actually died from the bird flu. I know that there's some cats that actually drank some raw milk and they passed away. But we've had a couple of humans that have died of bird flu. And I'm just curious, these have got to be compromised people already that are dying of this type of flu. Is that correct? Or am I speculating too much?
I don't. The really, I tried to find all the data on this, and it's actually pretty hard to find. So the number of human cases that I saw detected so far was 63. They didn't really comment too much on deaths. I know it's going on in the news, but finding the data on this was a lot harder than I expected it to be. I'll put it that way. So trying to pull it up and really drill down as to where it's happening. So I have some data on the states,
Okay.
but not a lot. So California seems to be the highest.
Of course it is.
Of course.
And at least in dairy herds, and then Washington and poultry.
Yeah, it seems to me that they're just killing off, I mean, millions and millions of birds. Of course, there's a great big hyperbole that, because they're killing birds, that's why well, of course, eggs are going to be affected. So is chicken prices. And there's some hyperbole going around that they want to limit our beef consumption. So they're trying to get rid of corporate beef and all this other stuff. And Mike, I guess my next question to you would be, what are you seeing in your practice? What are you seeing in your area in Pennsylvania? Are you guys getting rid of tons of chickens? And I know you guys have a problem with raw milk. I mean, that's one thing that you can get it, but there was a big fight over trying to acquire it.
Yeah, so raw milk is rather protected. I think there's a guy, his name is Amish dude named Amos. And so the raw milk is pretty available here in Pennsylvania, just because of the way the legal fight on raw milk was interesting. Actually, my son is a lawyer, and he did a whole podcast on that. So he's pretty good and up to date with that. But the legal issues surrounding raw milk is basically this guy, Amos, who's a Mennonite or Amish guy, just kept doing what he was going to do. And they finally just got tired of trying to go after him. And so he does his thing. And so raw milk is actually not hard to find in Pennsylvania. In terms of going back with what I'm seeing in my practice, mostly right now, it's just your typical influenza A. We do have some norovirus cases, which is more of a diarrhea. And you had brought up rhinovirus, but that's sort of just a generic term for any kind of like cold. I mean, there's well over 500 to 600 different types of human rhinoviruses that you can get, and that's just your common cold.
Yeah. So, yeah. So are you seeing anything abnormal? I mean, when I'm sitting here in California and I'm looking at the numbers here in California, I'm not seeing anything abnormal except for the quote flu coming back, because we didn't have any flu for a while because of course COVID took over the center stage on that. But all of a sudden now we have our flu numbers are going back up.
Yeah. So like I said, mostly it's flu A this year from what I've seen. I really have not seen that many fatalities from flu A. Like I said, the worst year that I can remember is the year of the swine flu, which was a mutation of the avian flu.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's differences between there's how many stages of flu are there? So you said flu A. So run us through a couple of different scenarios with the different flus.
So basically there's flu A and flu B, and then there's some other variants and subtypes. And then sort of this H5N1 has, like, those categories are what they call sort of these de novo mutations that sometimes can happen.
Okay, gotcha. So and a flu B, do they usually try to nail that in the yearly shot that we're supposed to get? And,
they do. Yeah. So, and that shot is their best guess at what they think is coming this year. So sometimes it gets hit right on, sometimes it doesn't. I think the concern that a lot of people have is they're trying to develop a new mRNA vaccine for the avian flu.
Yeah, ease our minds. mRNA is not in the flu shot yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's the one thing that's a big hyperbole I hear. Is just like, oh my God, they've mixed the COVID and the flu shot, and they're not telling anybody, and they're just injecting it in people. And
no, there's no mRNA. for my job, they do require us to get a flu shot every year, and so so far so good. I haven't had any side effects from it other than a sore arm for about 24 hours. But in terms of this whole bird flu, right now it's sort of much to do about nothing, as far as
does it make sense that if you have, I mean, I know that you're not in the agriculture business or the chicken business, but does it make
we have backyard chickens.
Does it make sense to kill your whole flock if one chicken becomes ill with bird flu? I mean, is it that virulent that it will go through a million chicken flock, or what's your experience with your sicknesses in your chickens? I mean,
my chickens are just lazy. They're getting old and not laying eggs anymore, so they're missing pets. But in terms of the spread in between flocks, my guess would be, their thought would be, is because of how contagious it is, you'd have to get rid of there being the CDC and things like that to completely cull the herd in order to slow the spread.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying, I like that answer. But the one thing that people don't realize is that that with egg chickens, it takes them 22 weeks to reproduce, all the chickens again, to be able to have, an egg factory and stuff like that. And I think that people are jumping the gun as far as, we're never going to have eggs again, and we're never going to have, chicken prices never come down. Chicken prices haven't come down in a long time. So I don't know. I think that's just regular inflation taking its toll and everything. As far as the egg situation is concerned, yeah, they are, they're destroying millions and millions of chickens. So of course, if you don't have the chickens on the shelf, supply and demand says you need to raise prices, and of course, we got them out here in California telling us that they're price gouging and all this other stuff. But the reality is that there's just not. I mean, I've never gone into a supermarket and seen the shelves empty of eggs, but I see that regularly now. It's not happening at Costco, because Costco's got plenty of eggs. That's where I get my eggs from. So they're there. I mean, and then I've got an egg farm that's about a mile and a half away from me, and I get plenty of eggs there. It just seems weird to me that this is just affecting chickens. I mean, I see just as many hummingbirds in the air. I see just as many geese in the air. I see just as many crows and pigeons and everything else. So it's kind of a weird thing for me when they call it the avian flu or the bird flu. Go ahead, Ken.
So I'm looking at the Minnesota Department of Health's current avian influenza. And I'm in Wisconsin, but Minnesota, Wisconsin, kind of the same. I know that they've killed 250, 300,000 chickens. It says the virus continued to infect wild and domestic birds since 2022, and it's also been detected in more than 200 mammals in the U.S. In 2024, this virus has been found in goats, cattle, in a multi-state outbreak of avian influenza. But it also says that there has been no human-to-human cases that they can find at this point.
Right. So, yes, when you're looking at the data, sort of, here are the species: in Texas, duck; New York, hooded merganser; Michigan, snowy owl; Michigan, snowy owl; red-tailed hawk; Canadian goose; bald eagle, and it varies by the state. And the strain that they're talking about with a lot of these is EAH5, and there's literally about 1,000 pages of data on this. We can go through it all, but I mean, the reality is like any viruses are gonna. There's gonna be some years that are worse than others, and some are, and it depends on two things. And it was the same thing with COVID. So any virus, there's two factors, right? It can either be highly virulent and highly deadly, and having both of those things is pretty unlikely. So if it's highly virulent, it means it spreads easy, right? But if it's highly deadly, it means it kills its host. So if it kills the host before transmission can before transmission occurs, and that viral strain usually doesn't stick around and last as long. It has to develop into something less deadly, so that there's a longer prodrome is what they call it. So that's before you're fully sick, where the virus can propagate and spread itself to other carriers. So whether or not a virus is life, there's a lot of debate on that. Most people don't consider viruses alive in the true sense, because it's just made up of RNA, DNA, RNA. But so not technically alive, but at the same thing, it's trying to survive. So it's trying to not kill its host because it wants to.
I can sleep at night then.
I've got a question for you. It seems to me, like especially during COVID, like Bruce had mentioned, all of a sudden the flu just disappeared. There was the CDC came out in that January of 2021 on the end of the day on Friday, saying that the main was it the PCR test, the main test that they said was the accurate one for COVID, that they really couldn't tell. It was really hard to differentiate influenza from COVID in that test, in that they recommended that people err on the side of COVID just in case. And that was the CDC thing. I was like, that's interesting. But I'm wondering if is how much of this is just trying to make news for the sake of news. So it seems to me this bird flu thing happens once in a while, and it's kind of cyclical. It very rarely jumps to humans, and if it does jump to humans, it isn't a death sentence. You can. I think you can always find one or two people in a country of 300 million that are going to suffer from something like this. But what would be your opinion on how much of this do you think is hype, just to say, hey, we had great ratings during the COVID thing, we can do it again with this bird flu, or how much this is a real threat?
So the possibility of it becoming a real threat always exists. Like I said, I think the worst year that I can remember in my time practicing a physician was back with the swine flu. So the possibility of it becoming a very virulent and deadly virus can exist, but it would have to be a little bit different than what we're seeing right now. It would have to mutate in some effect to increase mutate in some way to become a little bit more deadly. So like the swine flu, which was the 2009, was a mutation of the avian flu or bird flu, that they just call it the swine flu. So if this year, we really aren't seeing it, so they're monitoring it. So it's like anything, though. It's anything that's new or anything that's different. It can become a way to sort of control population. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there we go. straight from the mouth, babes. Anyway, the next question I got is, we've got a new administration, and again, I don't want to press you for a lot of information you probably don't want to give, or maybe you do want to give. But what do you think about the new administration and us pulling out of the World Health Organization and limiting what the CDC is doing in this administration? Does that change the way that you're doing your doctoring?
For me personally, not as much. Usually the main time I'm using the CDC website is for travelers information. So if I have a patient going to a foreign country, they do have a pretty good travel site about what's going on in certain countries. And, if I have a patient that's going to sub-Saharan Africa, or a patient that's traveling to the islands or South America, knowing, all right, which medicine works in which country for malaria, because that's not information I keep usually stored in my brain. I use the CDC travel database to find that out. Like, certain areas, if you're going out into the bush, the higher risk of rabies, do you want to consider a rabies shot, those types of things. So, and there's different strains of malaria, like with any infection. So some medicines work better than others depending on when you're traveling. So in that aspect, it affects a little bit, although that site's still accessible. So I'm not really having any challenges with that. In terms of the World Health Organization, I think So their data collection has always been interesting. So the United States always ranks high on their list of infant mortality. And it's been debated back and forth of the way they use the data and the way different countries supply the data and what they consider actually infant mortality. So in the U.S., we'll consider any child that dies even preterm before birth as an infant mortality death, and other countries don't count those, or they don't count them if it's within 3 months of birth. And so so there was debate on the way that WHO used their data.
Gotcha.
I mean, the WHO has a purpose, but I think one of the big knocks, is they're certainly a political organization. So back when COVID was coming around, they got knocked because they really did not, there was a thought that maybe the spread could have been limited if they had acted quicker, but they got strongly influenced by the Chinese Communist Party to not say that this was a virus coming from China.
So. Yeah, that I think that's what kind of sticks in the craw of a lot of people who really kind of scrutinize the whole idea of the World Health Organization as a whole, only because of the fact that all of the news that came out on the conservative side, on the Democrat side, on everybody's side, everybody had a opinion and a comment over what was happening with the WHO. So we're going to go quickly into our next subject, which is going to be you had a tragedy over there in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. And briefly, you had told us before we went on the air that these people who were conducting the life flights out of that area have been a couple of have been a company that has flown some missions out there in Haiti. Can you tell us? Number one, you just went to Haiti again. You've been to Haiti. You do missionary work in Haiti, and also a little bit about that tragedy. What do you think? I mean, it was definitely a tragedy for sure. Probably something that they couldn't foresee. Of course, it's a big tragedy, but yeah, just want to get your comments on that.
So specifically on the plane flight. So I don't know them. The woman who runs the organization, her and her husband knew them, and they had just recently, the pilots had just recently flown to Haiti to pick up a patient to transport them to United States. And actually they were there was no one else that would fly into the country. So they had someone who was in need had a medical emergency, and right. The 2 pilots were the ones that went. And
those were these 2 pilots, the ones that oh wow. I mean, seeing the actual footage of that going down, it was just like, it was so, I mean, the internet's like right now, and to be able to see what's actually happening, in the air and on the ground, minutes after it has happened is just, it's kind of disturbing in some ways. In some ways, I wish we were back in the old days where, we hear about it, that the plane went down and then we hear the details 2 days later. But man, this was like in our face, and it was minute by minute coverage of people on the ground with their cell phones, and first responders were there immediately. Man, it's just a huge tragedy. And my heart goes out for those pilots and the girl that had just received medical treatment, and I guess the mother was on the plane too with her at the same time, and then the doctor went down. So there was just an incredible loss of lives. And then there's still some people on the ground. I saw actually I'm not sure if it was this incident or not, but somebody was actually filming somebody that was on fire on the ground. So I mean, there had to be a bunch of people that are affected on the ground, and we haven't really heard too much about the casualties that happened on the ground. I still think they're doing an investigation in there.
So yes, this is a terrible tragedy. But my wife is an ER doc, and in her residency, she did a rotation where she flew on the chopper with the pilots, and the pilots they have were great, but that is a risky job. because they get grounded, but you're taking a patient who is critical, who might be in a very rural or otherwise dangerous, and these chopper pilots and sometimes plane pilots really put their lives on the line for patients. And so it is not as rare of an occasion to have a chopper crash or an incident happen in that community.
Yeah. Well, in the U.S., it's like I said, it happens like, right there, and then it's on Twitter within, minutes of it happening. So when are you going back to Haiti?
That I do not know. We were recently in Honduras. Haiti is still pretty well closed. So the organization, so my son works for one organization, and I've been down there with multiple organizations. I currently mainly work with one. There really is you can't get into Haiti. I mean, you could technically go to the DR and then cross the border, but at that Haitian and Dominican border, it's very much gang controlled, and so even getting in through that, you're really putting your life at risk. Where our kids are, they're pretty safe right now. There is a group in Port-au-Prince, but the neighborhood they're in is it's surrounded by gangs, but actually where they are is safe. And then another group of our children is more up in the mountains. And the mountains, they're affected because it's hard to get food. There's most of the shipments come in through Port-au-Prince, and then going south towards Jacmel, you have to go through a town called Matissan, and that's all gang controlled. So getting food into those areas is hard, but fortunately in the mountains, it's more of an agricultural community, so they do have access to their own food as well. So
well, since we talked to you last time, we've had a couple of hurricanes that flew through there. Did they get affected by the hurricanes at all?
Not too bad, no. They're any kind of weather like that, you gotta imagine is that most of those, so the buildings are mostly concrete, but a lot of people who live in poverty, they're living in tin shacks with maybe a tin roof, mostly dirt floors, no sanitation except for maybe an outhouse in the mountains.
Well, cool, man. I just we want to be respectful of your time. I know it's getting late over there.
Hey, I can go a little longer if you want me to.
No, we're going to be respectful because I know that you're going to be up at 3:00 in the morning like a good doctor does, and we'll be respectful of your time. But have you on again real soon, man. I really appreciate you coming on, Ryan, and giving us your bit on the bird flu and what to be worried about and what not to be worried about, because it's a lot of people they hear about the flu now, and COVID is essentially over, so it's the next thing to be worried about.
So I think here's I think I mentioned this to you. So my background is ethics, and so there was a book written by Michael Crichton called State of Fear, and that was focused more on climate change. And he wrote about how we live in this perpetual state of fear, and so it's the same in medicine, or the same in any kind of thing, or the news cycle. It's a state of fear. Like, it's a Chicken Little, the sky is falling. What's the next thing that's going to happen? What's the next terrible thing? And we have this, and you can die from this. And we have this, and you get exhausted from that. You get exhausted as a physician from that. You get exhausted as a patient from that. And you can't live your life in fear, right? Obviously, you want to be reasonable and be intelligent. The joke I have is that I tell my patients is that once a week I go and lick all the carts at Walmart. And the first couple times you get really sick, but after that you're immune to everything. And it's a joke, but the reality is you have to live your life, right? There's stuff all around us, and you can walk outside and get hit by a car, and it just stuff happens. So should we be aware of these things? Yes. Is the sky falling? No, it's not. Right? Yeah. It's not. And then I wanted to bring up something really quick, if I may. Jason was talking about coughing. So my Dr. Tidbit is, for your cough, there is no medicine that works for cough. People will believe something works for cough, but statistically, there is no study that any medicine actually helps you with your coughing. What there has been some indication that the best cough medicine is good tea with honey. If my Nana was around, she'd say you add a little bit of bourbon to that, and that really helps the cough go away. I disagree with the advice you got about Mucinex. Mucinex is a very safe medicine, and basically it breaks up the surface tension and allows you, doesn't stop the coughing, but it just thins the mucus and lets it get out. Okay. People use prednisone. Everybody wants prednisone. Prednisone doesn't really make the cough better. It just makes people feel really good because you're getting a lot of prednisone and you feel all jacked and ready to rock and roll.
Makes me hungry, so no, I don't want that stuff.
And then other people like narcotic cough medicines because those are out there. Those are addictive. They don't really stop the cough. They just make you feel like you don't really care about having a cough because you're on a freaking narcotic. So it doesn't stop the cough. So,
and I don't like those either.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's hundreds of things, but like scientifically speaking, there's no proven like cough.
Yeah, I do have a question about the common cold and the flus and stuff like that. Suppression or loosen it up and let it go?
So there's debate. I mean, you know, being sick's miserable. You know, you're coughing, you're not sleeping, you're waking up through the night. So if you can quiet that down a little bit, that's great. But suppressing it, I don't know. It's better to get it out, I think. So this is not doctor recommended. But when this is my personal, and because I'm a little bit of a crazy doctor, you can take this for what it's worth. But I do the tea with honey, and then like if I'm really congested, right, I just eat like the spiciest food I can find.
There you go.
It'll make you spicy and
salty.
The one thing that I found that works really great for congestion and people don't like it is a neti pot. Those things work. As long as it's distilled water, it works beautifully.
Yep, those do help. They definitely help clean you out. So.
Yep.
What about this new fad with the red light? Have you heard about that red light fad that they got going on now?
You know, there's always going to be something. So here, let me tell you this, and this is another thing that drives me nuts, and because there are in medicine people who take advantage of other people to make a dollar, and so. You know, there's this new thing. It's called they're albino mosquitoes. You can't see them, you can't hear them, and they're gonna. It really is gonna spread this really deadly disease. I'm really concerned about it. But lucky for you guys, I have the cure. It's this amulet that I made. I forged it in a clay pot.
Yes.
I'll sell it to you for. It cost me, you know, $200. So I'm giving you a discount. It's going to be $100 for this special amulet. But to get the albino mosquito is going to bite
you. It really reminds me of those stones that people put on their driving wheel, so they turn their driving wheel into a claymore.
Yeah, you know, it's there's always going to be something, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's always going to be somebody who's going to sell you something or try and convince you that you need something so you can be safe or protected. Right?
Oh yeah, and that going back to what you were saying earlier about licking the shopping carts at Walmart, and that's why I let my kids play in the dirt when they were little. I absolutely just go have fun because you're young. Just be immune to everything. I don't care.
Well, and Bruce, you work with the company that John works with, right? So that's the whole thing. They found like back when I was a kid, all the moms were like boiling everything and sterilizing everything, right? But they actually found there's possibly a link to, because that didn't do anything for your gut biome. So, you know, it actually ended up doing more harm than good in terms of those children that grew up in that age. And their ability to fight. They found more allergies, more asthma. So you need those exposures when you're young. And yes, it's safe. Right. The other thing is like parents sometimes don't realize is like the average number of colds a child will get if they're between ages of 1 to 3, if they're in like a daycare or a nursery or anything like that, is anywhere from 8 to 15.
Yeah. I just stay away from kids. I mean, that's really kind of what I do.
Yeah. But letting the kids go play in the dirt, eat stuff, do weird things. Yeah. Go have at it.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good gut biome.
Yep.
Good gut biomes. There we go. Good gut biome. That's the way to go for sure. Anybody else got any questions before we let Ryan go sleepy tonight?
I do have one question, and it's kind of a little bit off topic. Is there a difference between type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance?
No. If you're framing it in that way, so type 1 is usually where the beta or the islet cells die in the pancreas, and so your pancreas just doesn't produce the insulin anymore. So you really need the exogenous. Endogenous is stuff in your body. Exogenous is produced externally. So insulin resistance is maybe sometimes people use that term for people who are borderline diabetics who are not considered full diabetic yet because their A1C is not at that level. So insulin resistance can be overcome through dietary changes and mostly exercise because you're driving that any sugar that's into your bloodstream, into your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
and Bruce, that's why I check my blood sugar every morning now. It's really high. It's like in the 150s when I wake up. So
yeah.
So I had heard you mention that, and so I would be curious what was going on with your sugar at night. So so for you, it might be beneficial because it's not abnormal for your sugar to be high in the morning because your cortisol spikes in the morning. That's something, a hormone that helps wake you up. So your sugar should be a little bit higher in the morning, but there is a type, a condition where if your sugar drops really low, which sometimes can happen around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, you'll get even higher spikes. So if your sugar is dropping too low, right, sometimes you might not be eating quite enough before you go to bed because if your sugar's dropping too low, your body responds like, oh my God, we don't have enough sugar. We got to crank that cortisol up and get things going.
More hamburgers before bed. Yeah. More hamburgers before bed.
It's like 90 when I go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Right. But I'd be interested to know what was happening between like midnight and 2 a.m. with your sugar.
I'll have to see what it is then. Maybe stay up one of these nights.
Or if you could get like a CGM, you can buy them. They're not just for like a 2-week. It's not too expensive, but
okay. I might have to do that. Just do one of the 2-week things because he would not. My insurance won't cover it, so he didn't write me. He would not write me a prescription because insurance won't cover it.
Yeah, everything's available. So
yep. I did see that the FDA does approve one that is available for non-prescription. I might look into that.
Yeah.
They should approve everything.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole other thing. That's the libertarian take, right? Where
well, and Bruce, I wrote a letter to my insurance company, and it's like, why wouldn't you not approve this? Because in the long run, you're saving money on the insurance company because you're actually entrusting patients to figure out what's going on with their blood sugar, and they can make better choices. So they don't have to go through all this stuff with type 2 diabetes.
Right. This is what I've been saying. It's what I've been saying.
It's dumb.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you work right with the medical field, Jason. So I mean, you know, they're crazy. That's just unfortunate. Ryan, we really appreciate your time, man. Thank you for coming by again. Can't wait for you to come back on and tell us all your adventures back in Haiti when you get back in there. If we have another epidemic or anything like that, we're going to be sure to have you back on because we kind of think of you as our resident doctor. So we really appreciate your time, man, and be good to yourself, man.
Yeah, you guys take care. Appreciate it. Enjoy. I love listening to you guys. You
okay, great. Thank you much, man.
Thank you.
Bye now. Well, that was Dr. Ryan Crim, and we just really thank him for being here today and being a part of the show. And like I said, we think of him as our resident doctor. He's got a lot of good advice. He's got a lot of good, that common sense doctor stuff. And that's what we can really appreciate here. He's not paid by anybody and things like that. So, I mean, when you can trust the doctor that give you the straight up stuff, I mean, that's really, really important.
I would trust him easily over my own primary doctor, just because of the fact that he does want to empower patients to be less reliant on pharma, and he is a libertarian. So right then and there, I do trust him. So his advice that he gave is sound with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's important, right? For everything. So all the way. Christian, you trusted your haircut guy, obviously. How you doing?
Well,
it was me.
Yeah. I just was sick of it. It's a long story. Can I just for a second, when you mentioned you had a doctor on or you wanted to bring it on, I was not at all excited about that.
Yeah.
With my experience in medicine, I have run into a whole number of doctors who were just horrible.
Yep.
He's a good guy.
Yes.
He's the kind of guy who, when you just have a conversation with him, you can tell he's not just doing what the algorithm says.
Right.
He's actually thinking and trying to make you, the individual, better instead of just doing what he's supposed to do to keep from being sued.
Well, and Christian, one thing that gives me the feeling like he is one of the good guys is that he didn't stop and say, "No, you call me doctor." Right there, because a lot of the prick doctors will do that. And those are the ones who are usually stuck up. And the ones who just let you talk to them like they're just any ordinary people are usually the good ones.
Yeah.
What doctors, like you said, they're practicing medicine. It's not, they don't have this down. So a doctor that is humble enough to know that, hey, we're going to work together, but is going to give you honest, because most doctors you talk to, you can tell, like they say, well, take a little Robitussin, and they're just phoning you in. That's because they know that it's not going to do anything. I've known that cough medicine doesn't do anything forever. And to have someone to come on like that and be able to just, some good straight talk about it.
Yeah.
Without any BS and being open to options, the doctors whine about people come in and they, like he said, people come in and want prednisone. They want prednisone for everything. And,
I hate that stuff.
There's good and bad to all of this because people do have more knowledge than they ever have had in the history of the world about what medicines are, now most of their knowledge is a little knowledge is a terrible thing. And that's where doctors are fighting that. I understand that. But there are some of us out here that have had, with my wife, all kinds of crazy medical issues that are outside the norm. And if you don't do your research on that when you go into the doctor, you're going to get the normal bullshit.
Oh, absolutely.
And a doctor like that, you can talk to and say, okay, when my wife was having trouble losing weight after really, really working hard at it, and she was working hard, watching her diet, exercise, did all the things. Well, the doctors, they don't care when you say, well, she doesn't have a thyroid. That was taken out in 1998. That's going to change everything. And they don't know what to do. They're like, and you got to find a specialist. You got to reboot, or you have to just, what we did is we just chased around until we found a doctor. We go to the doctor at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, guys, the Mayo freaking clinic. We went to their weight loss labs and stuff like that. And my poor wife was basically there in tears, just going, I don't know what else to do. Everything we've done hasn't worked and blah, blah, blah. And this is my medical stuff. And this is what I'm on. This is what I use. I don't have a thyroid. And the lady literally sat there, looked in her face and said, well, the first thing you probably want to do is talk to a psychiatrist. And you guys met Stacy. You all know Stacy.
Yes, I know Stacy.
She damn near crawled over the table and strangled this bitch. It was.
Need to watch that.
It was. Even I got pissed off, and I'm usually the calm guy, just going, hold on a minute. I'm like, first of all, we were in counseling. We had counselors that we've used on and off for years, and it's a wonderful thing. So it's not like we're against it, but to have her be, no, that's what you need to do. You're just crazy in the head, so you're not losing weight. And now through the miracle of modern science and Monjaro, she's lost 110 pounds and feels great. But you had to find the right doctor to work with you, and the insurance companies wouldn't pay for it. We had to go through this whole rigmarole bullshit to get the thing. Oh, all this stuff that she'd already tried. They said, you have to try this stuff first. And she's like, I've tried all that. The Saxienda and the different ones like that. And you finally get a doctor that just say, all right, here's what to do. They're going to make you try all this stuff. It doesn't tell you how long you can try all this stuff. So go get it. You can just get it. You can sit there and hold it in your hand and throw it in the garbage and get the next one a week later. Take it, throw it in the garbage. You know it's not going to work. And that's when you have a doctor that's willing to do that, to stick his neck out. Well, now it worked. And 2 years later, she's much healthier. No back problems, ankle problems, knee problems. All that stuff's gone.
Yeah. A lot of people are so apprehensive about just asking for a specialist. And it's just like when I went in for my last physical that I had, I was adamant. I mean, we sat down, he didn't do a whole lot of doctoring. He just sat down and listened to me, and probably one of the first doctors in Kaiser Permanente that actually didn't sit there and got the touchy feely stuff and, talking about this and that. He wanted to know what was going on with me. And he's all, he goes, well, what's the next thing? What do you want to do? Well, I need to go see this guy, and this guy. And they're going like, oh yeah, okay, well, I can see that. And then he'll ask me a couple more questions. The guy was a little bit more knowledgeable than some of the doctors I've had in the past. But believe me, unless you go into your primary care doctor, who most people think that their primary care doctor is just the end all be alls, and he's got all the answers. They're not. You have to. If you got a shoulder problem, I want to go talk to a shoulder guy. If I got a heart problem, I want to talk to a heart guy. The things like that. And people just think that their primary doctor are just going to take those cues and go like, oh, you need to go see this guy, or oh, you need to go see that guy. No, in this day and age, you have to pound down doors. You've got to kick down doors, or you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, and speaking on that, Bruce, back in the day, probably about 15, 16, maybe 20 years ago, I went into my primary doctor because every winter I would have this persistent cough that would constantly go on and go on and go on and go on. It wouldn't go away. And I saw one of my primary doctors who I no longer see. And she's like, oh, you've got asthma. So we're going to give you a spirometry test. So they gave it to me, and it was my first time taking one. And she's like, yep, you've got asthma. So they put me on an inhaler. And things weren't getting better. So they put me on an inhaler and then Advair. And things are still not getting better. So they put me on an inhaler, Advair, and then prednisone. And things are still not getting better. So they put me on an inhaler, Advair, prednisone, and Flonase. So that's four. That's four steroids.
How far could you run without you could run like 10 miles and not have to you wouldn't be breathing at all.
So Christian, speaking of that, there was one winter where some guy cut me off in Minneapolis, and I went fucking ballistic. I'm surprised this guy didn't shoot me for how ballistic I went. And I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. And they kept saying, no, you've got asthma, you've got asthma, you got asthma, you got asthma. So I went to the Mayo Clinic, and I was talking to one of the doctors there, and he's like, I don't think you have asthma, but we're going to check. And after putting me through a correct test, he's like, no, you don't have asthma at all, but there's something that's triggering a asthma-like response with you. Lo and behold, what it was reflux. And reflux was caused from all the sugar and carbs that I was eating. Once I cut that out, everything went away.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's
amazing
when you throw away all that processed stuff and get serious about, your diet. I mean, we all somewhat eat dirty. I mean, some of us don't eat as dirty as others. I mean, Jason's really cleaned his act up. I'm still.
Oh, I have cleaned it up a lot because I am trying to get my blood sugar where it's normal. It's going to take a while, but I want my blood sugar at a normal level. So I've cut out a lot of stuff out of my diet. I've cut out a lot of supplements as well because I want that blood sugar to go down. I've even cut out drinking because alcohol raises your blood sugar. I've cut out
That's a damn lie. That is a damn lie. All right, sorry.
I've even cut out the fake sugar too. I went back to drinking water and just back to a hard carnivore, and I've watched my blood sugar naturally come down. It's just in the morning when I want to get that back down. At night it was for a while there it was at like 110, 120 going to bed at night, where now it's in the 85s.
Yeah.
As soon as I can get that morning one back to a normalish phase, like Dr. Crim was saying, exercise, that's kind of hard with my schedule. But I'm going to try to get some walking in when it starts getting warmer out.
Yeah. The whole thing about that is just that you've got to be able to just knock everything down as much as possible. You still have to live, of course, you still have to live, but we strive for perfection, but you just can't make it. I mean, that's the whole thing, really. I mean, you're doing great, Jason. I mean, better than I heard you doing. We had this discussion 2 weeks ago, me and you on a private chat, and it's just one of those things where you work at it, and you get it. You're gonna get that, but it takes giving up this, taking that, monitoring, fighting with your freaking your health organization to get you what you need to, and if you can't, then you got to buy it on your own. I mean, sometimes you just got to do the work, man. I really appreciate that your story, man, and I'm glad it's working for you. So
me too. And there's a lot of amazing doctors out there, like Dr. Crim is one of them. There's a lot that I follow as well, and there was a study that I saw one of these doctors talking about. I posted a video in one of the Discord chats somewhere that was saying that working out in the morning is actually worse for fat loss than working out in the evening.
Oh, I work out in the morning.
So, and it's like, well, I can't get up, because if I were to work out in the morning, I'd have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
I get up at 4:15 in the morning, and I do my hour to 45 minutes or whatever whatever I can do in that. But and then I get disappointed because my scale lies to me every time. And so mine is
finally going down a little bit at a time. I mean, it's this whole insulin resistance things, because when your body is resistant to insulin, you can't lose weight. So it's finally starting to go down. I would really like to get up early and start going to the gym, but my sleep doctor wants me minimum of 7 hours of sleep every single night. And with that minimum that she wants me at, there's no way in hell I can get up before 5:30.
Yeah, I just, I look at my scale, like I'm going to look at my scale tomorrow, and I'm not going to be surprised if it's up a pound or, the same as it was last week, because I'm attributing it to the fact that, hey, muscle is waste more than fat, so who knows? It does. I know it does, but the belly doesn't seem to be going down. But no.
Whenever whenever I check my scale, I'm always 1 to 1.
Jason, I want to say this, if I may.
No.
I want to encourage you, keep going, keep working, keep doing it. And to all your success, I'll drink to that.
Exactly. We will we'll drink to that.
You and Ken and Bruce can drink for me, because I want to make this work.
Yeah,
I want to make this work.
We want it to work for you. We want it to work for you, for sure. Absolutely.
We can do that for you, Jason. We'll have one for you.
Sweet.
But, we will definitely be seeing you on the only dadspodsfans.com website that we're going to do, and we're going to have a calendar, and Jason is going to be the cover person for sure.
The only dad's calendar. I think we've got, because I'm a car guy, of course, so there'll be some cars in there. And I do have a Grand Marquis and a town car and a Suburban. I've got 3 of the daddest of dad cars that you can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'll
lay
everybody that I'm going like, my buddy Ken has a
the
town car,
the Leopard
That's
Thong
a dad car. If there's any type of dad car.
Spread out on the spread eagle on the hood of it, just like Tawny from a freaking White Snake video. I could go like from one to the other. Remember they had the 2 Jaguars and she's dancing back and forth. Oh, this is gonna be epic.
How cool would it be if Logan can do me up with some wigs and other stuff as a pinup girl?
Oh, she'd be able to do that.
I know she would.
Too far. I think we've gone too far here.
Has this moved to a different direction?
I think we.
You know what we could do, Jason? Actually, getting this back into the world of Minnesota politics, which I really love to talk about. We could do that. We could have Logan doll us all up there, and let's infiltrate one of those groups of the trans people that go in and start screaming at them and just tear them to pieces from the inside. How fun would that be? Well, wait. No, that's not what we meant. No, we weren't talking about that. We wanted them to. I thought we were here to repeal gun laws. Someone told me the wrong thing. We're here trans against gun laws. What are we doing with this? We're supposed to get rid of the income tax too in this state. What's going on? Just how much fun would that be? Because they would know what hit them.
We should find Walter Hudson and take a picture with them.
We're gonna have to have Walter and Shane back on and get them on here because I'm really interested in what's going on in the legislature over there. But hey, do you know what? People can go out and they can buy us a cup of coffee now because we have a website called buymeacupofcoffee.com/weathered soul. And I will show you the site right here. You can go.
It's buymeacoffee.com, not buy me a cup of coffee.
Buy me a cup of coffee, whatever. Buymeacoffee.com.
Click on the link on the show notes that Bruce will put in there. It'll be wrong, but you can click on it anyway.
Already in the show notes. The link is already in the show notes. I'm just showing you the page right there. You can enter any amount that you want to in this little itty bitty box here, or you can give us the big money right here. You know, the 25, the 50 to $100. Yeah, you can do that for us if you want to, but we would just really appreciate it if you guys would come out and support us and buy us a cup of coffee and support the show because basically, you know, stuff gets old, you know, like you said, you know, Jason just bought his little new mic over there, you know, and that came out of his pocket and all our time and effort. And go ahead, Ken.
If you're talking about buying you a cup of coffee, what better way to drink that coffee with within your own Weathered Report mug made by our own Jason from Horrible Designs. Jason, how much is a mug like this if someone wanted to order a Weathered Report mug?
Well, that's something we have to talk about because I asked you guys multiple times on the pricing of that stuff, and nobody ever got back to me.
That's a wrong answer. That's a wrong answer. The answer is $25. The answer is $25. I'll say it right here. For $25, you can have your own Weathered Report mug.
That's right. Everybody has one. All the cool kids have one. All the cool kids have one.
Only the good-looking guy doesn't.
Christian's eerily silent over there.
I'm late to the party here, I guess.
I'll have to send him one then. I'll have to make one for Christian and send it out.
Well, I can. Do you put the? Oh no, there's no logo for the Horrible Designs on the bottom of the mugs you've already sent me, right?
Nope.
I could do my Jesus mug. I use the pirate mug all the time.
Can I send you a different one? A new one?
The ones you sent me are just fine. And they've even been I said microwave. They've even been dishwashed a couple of times and they're still normal. They look just like they're supposed to be.
There you go.
Jason, they're fine. I don't need another mug that I'm not paying for.
Ken, what are we going to do on the bonus content today? Tell us what's going on. Tell us what's coming up.
Oh, well, let's try not to punch my mic here. So the bonus content we're going to talk about. So if you guys,
he's got Mike underneath his desk.
Barrett Jackson, Mike, get back. Barrett Jackson car show auction best collector. You know, it says right there, world's greatest collector car auctions. That's what we're going to be talking about. I did a bunch of interviews with a bunch of different artists there. So instead of focusing on all the cars and everything, which you can find online everywhere, some of the best automotive artists in the world were there. And I got a chance to talk to them. And one of them was one of my absolute heroes, Tom Fritz. So we'll talk about that in the bonus area. And you guys should buy a cup of coffee, get yourself a mug, and enjoy that when it comes out.
Hey, one thing real quick. To go into the cup of coffee, what better coffee is there than Colloquium Craft?
Colloquium Craft Coffee.
Yeah, there's nothing better than Colloquium Craft Coffee, and we're going to have them on here pretty soon too. Because I just got my 2 pounds just delivered to me just the other day, and it was heaven. So if you guys want to go out, that is also in the show notes, colloquiumcraftcoffee.com, and you can go over there and you can buy yourself some really, really good coffee. And we're all coffee snobs here now.
Don't worry about that. And Ken just dropped Mike.
Making all kinds of noise. He just dropped everything.
I'm just dropping mics because I'm picking my stuff up. So, and as you're drinking your coffee and listening to the show, you could also be coloring in your very own handmade coloring books. So these are available, madkstudio.com, MADDK studio.com.
There we go. Jason, go ahead and plug yourself before we take off.
I'm Jason from Horrible Designs. I sell mugs, t-shirts, vinyl decals, 20-ounce skinny tumblers, shot glasses, drink koozies, drink coasters, mouse pads, magnets, stickers. You can find me at my website at horribledesigns.com. You can also find me at Amazon Handmade, Michael's Maker Place, eBay, Etsy, TikTok Shop, and Walmart.com. And if you reach out to me, I do custom work as well.
Christian, do you have anything to say?
If you have audio or video that you'd like edited, or you want to just talk about what details need to be incorporated into your production, I'm here for that. I'm also thinking about starting a business, kinda. I'm thinking about starting a consultancy for small business people who have a business that works, but they don't have any idea how to scale. And not like those crazy people that you see advertising on Facebook, but I've been down in the trenches doing this for long enough that I've seen what everybody does wrong. And I think this might be an actionable thing. So we're still early in the idea here, but this is one that popped up this week, and I thought, man, I could do this. This would be fun and easy.
Why don't you become a consultant for consultants?
That's called
because they're always full of themselves. They always think they have all the answers.
That's called a consultant. You know, Christian, if you scroll back in the notes there, you could maybe talk to the gentleman in there that offered to be our editor. Sounds like he almost spoke English.
I just let it go. I thought, sure, whatever. I didn't. There's no point in. It's like Democrats. There's no point in engaging because they can't have a reasonable conversation.
True that. Oh, thanks, guys.
I'm from weathersold.com, and you can grab us on Sunday nights here on the Weather Report at 7:00. On your favorite podcast app. Go ahead, Christian. What are you doing?
I'm grabbing us.
Oh, there we go.
And
Rumble.
Hold on, Bruce.
Here we go.
If you do that $100 buy me a coffee, Bruce will send you a photo of him in a thong bikini.
There we go.
I'll get the
green beret mankini.
Yes, that's the way to go.
$100.
You probably wouldn't fit in mine.
Subscription $100. That's monthly.
Yes.
Anyway, you can get me on weathersold.com. Hey, listen to the best morning show on X every morning. Go over to X and listen to the Weather View. That happens at 6 a.m. Pacific time on your favorite podcast app, or come join us live. And all you got to do is go join me at also known as TWS. That's at also known as TWS. And we're going to let you guys go because that's what we do every time we get to about an hour, and we're already at hour 2. So Duchess is going $100. She's ready to go. So who knows what's going to happen? Like I said, go over to the morning show on X, and you can listen to Duchess yourself because she's our collaborator there. And we're really excited that she's there all the time. So I'm going to leave you like I leave you all the time. We're going to do some bonus content on the other side, and we will see you next week on the next edition, the 51st episode of the Weather Report. Everybody say goodbye. Have a great day, and be good to yourself.